Normalization. Lesson 2.2 UNF, 1NF, and 2NF. In this lesson, UNF, 1NF, 2NF, BCNF, and 3NF will be introduced. The understanding of a normalized form UNF, first normal form 1NF, and second normal form 2NF design will be constructed. There are several normal forms, including UNF, 1NF, 2NF, 3NF, and BCNF. UNF stands for a normalized form. The characteristic for UNF is relation having multi-valued attributes. 1NF stands for first normal form. The characteristic for 1NF is that any relation having only single-valued attributes. 2NF stands for second normal form. The characteristic for 2NF is that all non-key attributes are dependent on all of each key. 3NF stands for third normal form. The characteristic for 3NF is that there are no transitive dependencies. BCNF stands for Boyce-Cobb normal form. The characteristic for BCNF is that every determinant is a candidate key. The first step to normalization is to convert the data into a two-dimensional table. In a normalized form, UNF, data can be arrays or multi-value attributes. Do you still remember what is multi-value attributes? You have learned about multi-value attributes in the last lesson. Multi-value attributes or repeating groups are non-key attributes or groups of non-key attributes, the values of which are not uniquely identified by the values of the primary key. In this example, course ID is multi-valued attribute because one student can study more than one course. In the table student, course code is multi-value attribute because one student can study more than one course. And in this table, the data in the teacher column is contained the data about teacher ID and teacher name. The characteristic of first normal form 1NF is any relation must have only single-valued attributes. This means the data cannot be arrays or multi-value attributes. To convert a table in UNF to 1NF, you should reconstruct the table to make sure that there is no more multi-value attribute anymore. Just like this. And then to find out the column containing array. In this table, teacher column contains arrays, teacher ID and teacher name. And you should reconstruct this column. It is better that split the column name to two first name and last name. And this the table in 1NF. There are the characteristics of second normal form 2NF. The relation must be in 1NF. All non-key attributes are fully functionally dependent on the primary key, which means there is no partial dependency. Do you still remember what is partial dependency? You have learned about partial dependency in the last lesson also. Partial dependency occurs when a non-key attribute is determined by a part but not the whole of a composite primary key, which means if AB functionally determines C and A functionally determines C, then C is partially functionally dependent on AB. In this example, name is partial functionally determined on two primary key customer ID and order ID, because name only fully functionally depends on one of the primary key customer ID. This is the relation schema of the table student. From the relation schema, you can see that student ID and course code are the primary key. Student ID course code functionally determines student first name, student last name, course name, teacher ID, teacher first name, teacher last name, and grade. Student ID functionally determines student first name and student last name. And course code functionally determines course name. Therefore, you can see that in the table student first name, student last name, and course name are partially functionally dependent on the primary key student ID and course code. You can see the partial dependency in the table student. So how to remove the partial dependency so as to convert 1NF to 2NF? You can split the table into several tables according to the full functional dependencies. In the table students, there are 3 full functional dependencies. They are student ID, fully functional determines student first name and student last name. Course code fully functionally determines course name. Student ID and course code fully functionally determine teacher ID, teacher first name, teacher last name, and grade. Finally, the original table students are split into 3 different tables. They are student, course, and student course. In this lesson, you have learned about what is UNF, 1NF, and 2NF. And in the following lesson, you will learn about what is 3NF and BCNF. That's the end of the lesson. Thank you.